Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars and welcome to another PlayStation review. Today's review is for Star Trek Resurgence on the PlayStation 4. The choose your own adventure, very much in the same style as the Telltale games. Now, this is a game that, for me, I remember looking at gameplay footage of this over a year ago and getting really excited about this game because, number one, I am a big Star Trek fan. I love Star Trek. I love Star Trek games. I love Star Trek movies. I enjoy many of the TV shows, so I'm always up definitely for when a new Star Trek game comes out. So when I saw gameplay footage of this last year sometime, I was very interested in this. I was very aware of what type of game it was going to be. I knew from the off it was going to be like a choose your own adventure type game with dialogue choices and decisions that will, impact your game and your story, all that kind of stuff. As I mentioned, very much like the old Telltale games. And I was up for that. Any Star Trek game, any new Star Trek game that I can get my hands on, I will generally accept with open arms. And then it all went quiet. I was expecting this game to come out last year, and there was no sign of it, didn't hear anything of it, and no idea when it was coming out. And then, all of a sudden, this week, it just popped up in the PlayStation Store. Star Trek Resurgence, PlayStation 4. Not available on the PlayStation 5, just the PlayStation 4. Now, while I was absolutely delighted to see this game, and I was very happy to buy the game and download it, the alarm bells were ringing a little bit. Why is this game kind of stealthily being released? Why has there been no fanfare about it? Why has there been, nobody really reviewing it? Well, funnily, the reason for that is quite explainable in a lot of ways. This game is pretty poorly polished, pretty janky, very little care and attention in regards to the dialogue and the audio. It's all very patchy and janky. The resolution drops quite terribly sometimes. It looks at times like a PlayStation 3 game. So I can understand why this is being stealthily released. I think this game absolutely needed some polish added to it. It feels in a lot of ways unfinished graphically and with the audio. And it's almost like the developers have kind of said, let's just release this. Let's just get it out from under our feet. Let's get it sent out, released, and put a cheaper price tag on it, or just, a fairly simple price tag. This has been released in the UK at $34.99, which obviously you can't expect, AAA quality with a game price of that tag. But you do expect a certain amount of quality. Now, while I've started off with this review quite negatively, because I think you need to kind of lower your expectations if you're going into this. If you like Telltale type games, narrative heavy games, choice games like this, and you're certainly a fan of Star Trek, then for me this is probably going to be a no-brainer for you, as it was for me, because I'm such a huge Star Trek fan. I would have played this anyway, regardless. I just think anybody going into this with really high expectations, you need to absolutely lower them expectations, because this game does not reinvent the wheel in any way, shape or form. As I've mentioned, it's only available on PlayStation 4, not on PlayStation 5, and at times, to be fair, the graphics look almost on a PlayStation 3 level. Or very low-end PlayStation 4 game. The very little has been done to make this game feel special, look special, or sound special. But what is the story here? Well, essentially, you get to control two members of the starship USS Resolute. You get to control the second in command, the XO, who has just been recruited and brought on board by the captain, as the ship Resolute had an accident 6 months previously where some of the crew died. So she's like a last-minute replacement. So you get to control her. She's got to prove herself, has the second in command to many on the crew. She's got to make some difficult decisions, and she kind of grows into the story. And actually, quite a good character, I'm not going to lie. And then you also get to control another member of the crew, a lowly engineering ensign, Diaz. He gets to do a lot of the menial tasks, a lot of the maintenance tasks, repairs, all that kind of stuff. And he's got his own issues and decisions to make, and his own story going. So essentially, you control these two characters, and the game is in chapters, as you would expect for a game like this. And one chapter you'll generally control one of the characters, and in the next chapter you control the next. And they kind of both stories kind of run parallel to each other to a large degree, but you get to experience this starship from two different perspectives, one from the second in command and one from, like I say, a lowly engineering ensign. They have been sent, the Resolute, on a mission to essentially negotiate peace between two races. There's like a technologically advanced race that has been taking advantage of another race on a different planet for many, many centuries, using them as labour to mine dilithium. And there's been an uprising, and it's up to the Federation to go in and try and negotiate peace. And to do that, there is a very, very familiar face, and this isn't really a spoiler, because if you've seen any of the footage of this game from last year or whatever, you know that Ambassador Spock makes an appearance in this game. I know we know Leonard Nimoy passed several years earlier, but there is like somebody, I suppose, impersonating Leonard Nimoy's voice here in this game. So there is some familiar faces here, one in particular, obviously. So you go here to this planet, and you basically trying to negotiate this peace between these two races, and then you've got other stuff going off in between as well. So you've got things going off here as you would expect in a Star Trek game. You know, you've got things to solve, problems on the ship, malfunctions. You're going to need your phaser here and there. You're going to need your tricorder here and there. You've got to do all these things to kind of make your way through the story. Now, as a fan of Star Trek, I thoroughly enjoyed that aspect of the game. It was very, very welcome from my perspective, and I did feel immersed in the game for the most part. I think the game really does start taking you out of the immersion, like I say, because the voiceover audio is so choppy sometimes. For example, somebody will be speaking a sentence, and then they will immediately repeat the same sentence and miss the rest of the dialogue, or they'll miss the first line of the next bit of dialogue, and then it just takes you out of the immersion sometimes, and it's sloppy the way it's been done. And there'll be like these pauses now and again in the game that just kind of slow it all down, and again take you out of the immersion. But this is one of those games that I think probably most people, I would suggest it might be worth waiting for a sale, because this is the sort of game, if it was about £20, you know what I mean, you could absolutely tolerate some of the things that this game has with it, some of the jankiness to it and some of the lack of polish. If you can't wait, then to be honest, I'm not going to lie, I did still quite enjoy the game. I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed feeling part of this crew, part of this Star Trek story. It was enough for me personally, but I just don't think it will be for everybody. So if you are a fan of these type of games, the Telltale type games, narrative heavy adventures where you make your own choices, and you really do enjoy being in the Star Trek universe, and you enjoy Star Trek itself, then you probably are going to get something out of this game. But my advice really is probably to wait for the sale for most people. I think this game could have been a lot better. I'm giving it a 7 out of 10 because I'm such a big fan of Star Trek, but I think a lot of people will be scoring it a little bit lower than that, if I'm being particularly honest, because there are aspects of this game that you just necessarily can't forgive, the lack of polish, and it just feels rushed out of the door as far as I'm concerned. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review. I'll be back with more content on the channel very, very soon.